It all started at a con called MetroCon. A great con. Big and crazy and very popular. I recommend it. I love going to these things. Well, this convention is known a lot for its events, and one of them is their masquerades. Great place for you to dress up in your best dress or your best suit and put on a mask and dance with random strangers. Well, my ex who had went with me took me to the masquerade. I'm a bit ditzy. For you see, I don't drink, but give me a Coke with rum in it and tell me it's a Coke and it's free, I'll drink it. I had 5 of these this night. Ended up having me turn out like a complete ditzo. I declared that it was getting way too hot, for you see, I was wearing a kimono, a real kimono that I had bought from Epcot. So I turned to my ex and declared that I was going to go fix this. So I made my way over to the little girl's room. My poor Fuzzy, he just sat out there and waited and waited. And then finally I came out. And it shocked him apparently. I found nothing completely wrong. Well, I told him I felt much better and we could go. We went to the masquerade, we saw the people perform, we tried to dance. Apparently, I'm not very good on my feet, and we took lots of pictures. Well, after the masquerade, I was sitting down because I felt a little woozy. And Fuzzy had came up to me and said, "Hey, do you remember Duo Maxwell from Gundam Wing? I heard you said you liked him." And I replied, "Yeah, that's why I'm dating you, because you sound just like him." Well, he told me that Scott McNeil, who voices him, is now doing a special meet and greet for all his fans. Oh, I so want to meet him. So, Fuzzy took my hand and led me over to the panel, where I saw Scott for the very first time. I gotta say, being a Canadian, he looks so much like a cowboy to me. Well, he was doing a special meet and greet where there was a line of girls and they all got 5 minutes to say hi to him, to ask him all these questions, then they move on. Well, Fuzzy was the first one to notice this line. And when he turned to tell me, I was gone, because, being a fangirl, I ran right towards him the moment he was free. Well, I ran up to him and I said my hi, and I told him that I love Duo Maxwell. It was the first anime series that I watched that was actually really dramatic, that I actually got really into, and for him to sign my fan. Well, Scott laughed and asked me if it was alright for him to sit down, because apparently he's been standing for 2 hours straight and his legs really hurt. So he sat, and I gotta tell you, he does the best southern accents I've ever heard. Well, after 20 minutes, I know it was 20 minutes because my ex decided to come up to me and tell me it was 20 minutes. He came up to me and told us that it was time for me to leave. Well, I said goodbye to Scott, saying thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Well, as I was leaving, Scott stopped me, and he said, "I have a question." He looked at me and said, "I've seen a lot of kimonos at these conventions that I go to, but rarely do I ever see them worn in the way you have. Do you have a reason why?" Well, you gotta forgive me, because I'm under the influence, so I ended up doing the most embarrassing thing I've ever known myself to do. I grabbed my blouse and I shoved myself up and declared, "'Cause I have this really cute freckle right here on my boob!" He was quiet for a moment, but then he replied, "Yep." Well, my ex decided to grab me and take me back to the hotel at that moment. I forgot the rest of the night. But apparently the next day, he told me what I did. I still could not believe I did something like that in front of Scott McNeil. I was in denial. But as we were walking, we walked across a group of girls and we found out Scott McNeil was right in the middle of them. I watched and laughed and wondered if he would remember me, and he found me, picked out from the crowd, and yelled, "Hey, you, come over here!" I walked over and I said, "Hi, Scott, do you remember me?" And he declared, "Of course I remember you. How can I forget you?" So to be mean, I asked him, "So what's my name?" That was a good trick, because Scott just stood there and just stared at me. And he thought, wondering he's not very good with names. But suddenly it hit him, and he replied, "Oh, I remember. You're the boob Freckle chick. Hey, Freckle, how was your night?" And thus, my name was born.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it.